Welcome to this episode of the Strong Guy Podcast. This episode is with Cody Miller. Cody is a gym owner. He's a lifter. He's a dad. He's a musician. Cody is one of my early mentors in barbell training. I went to his gym when I lived in the St. Louis area, and I learned a lot from Cody and the other coaches and just the community at the Strength Parlor, which is in O'Fallon, Missouri. You can follow Cody at Strength Parlor on Instagram. Great resource. Super thoughtful, caring human being. We talked about building community, building a gym, managing obstacles, being a dad, all sorts of things. Really great conversation with Cody. I hope you enjoy it. Check him out on Instagram, or if you're in the St. Louis area, go pop into the Strength Parlor and learn to lift or keep lifting. If you're in need of help with your rehab, your training, your overarching lifestyle, and you want to consult with me, please reach out to me at dr.dave.strengthandkindness on Instagram. I'd love to chat and help you out in any way I can. Thanks so much for being here. Enjoy the episode. All right, I'm with my buddy Cody Miller. Cody was my first, I will say Cody was my first, I don't want to say good coach. But Cody was somebody that taught me a lot about barbell training, in-person training, pushing myself. I went to his gym, the Strength Parlor, which was it called the Strength Parlor when I was there in 2017, or had you officially branded it that, or let's start there.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So at that time, long story short, I started personal training when I was 18, and this was through a commercial gym and their personal training organization. And I was going to school at the same time. So I went to school at Missouri Baptist University and got my bachelor's degree in exercise science. And during that time, we're in this commercial gym where at that time, the evolution of the commercial gym is another subject. At that time, we had 2 squat racks. And that was it in the whole gym. And so it was very unusual, and it wasn't like people were fighting over it either. Nowadays, that same commercial gym has maybe 10 squat racks in it, which is an amazing thing, if you think about it. But shoot, I had slowly but surely started working, and I figured out pretty early on that I liked doing group coaching because I could start people one-on-one and really get their fundamentals down and teach them. But then once they had that down, I could move them into a small group where I could still coach every set, but then they had the fellowship and the accountability of others and the relatability. And we still worked in custom programming like we do now. We still worked in personalized nutrition, but we were doing that in this commercial setting on 1 squat rack. So it was almost like West Side Barbell in the commercial gym in a way, but with normal people, I just mean general normal people like myself, like you. These weren't, we ended up having some really highly competitive power lifters and competitive jiu-jitsu athletes and all that, but we also had, like we do now, there's people that are 70, 80 years old. But at that time, somebody coined the term, my name's Cody, I got red hair. I'm obviously a redhead, as you can see with this beautiful lighting in my skin tone. But somebody called it Code Red, and Code Red Strength Club is kind of what it became. So at that time, you were probably there when it was Code Red Strength Club.
That's right, yeah.
And then I think 2019 was when, I ended up thinking, I remember on a car ride one time, and I beat myself up over specifics with names and I'm a musician too, so song lyrics, I'll spend all day trying to get one word right, and I've always been that way. It's a crux in some ways, but eventually the Strength Parlor hit, and I was like, I think that's perfect. So we settled on the Strength Parlor around 2019, and it's been evolving ever since. But yeah, man, when you were living here in St. Louis, it was awesome having you around, and you got to see the original location in the warehouse space that was, I guess, 3,000 square feet, maybe a little bit bigger than that, but we had a garage door. It's kind of, it's kind of like, the idea with that was almost having like a high-end boutique warehouse gym. And then now, shoot, this year we moved into, I think it's actually close to the same size, believe it or not. But we got a lot more equipment here. We have more options. We got more machines. We have arsenal machines, and full set of dumbbells and all the good stuff. A full set of kettlebells, and we really optimize every square foot at this space to make it what it is. And it's been going good. 6 months now, roughly.
What I will Cody is very, I mean, from what I remember, and just he kind of mentioned it there, he almost agonizes over details sometimes, I think, which, I think that's probably a positive. Most things in life are pros and cons, right? But what has, like, the community you built, I just want to also go here, it's like, what was really fun about coming to your gym, it was just people, a diverse group of people, but doing the same thing. Like, there were people, I remember Bill and Nan, these are people in their 70s and 80s, lifting weights. And, Bill would take 9-minute long rest breaks type of thing, right? Between sets of press or whatever. And he'd just be talking. And but then there were other people who, there were some competitive athletes who were, 20 years old or teenagers getting strong. And but then, and it was just so diverse. But, I think that's, was a really cool aspect. I think it inspired me in many ways to just, see the utility of, barbell training, good training in general, for just about anybody who wants to learn it, right? And the confidence that I can build. But, what's that been like for you as a coach? And, you've obviously, training and coaching, these are hard. This is a hard field. A lot of people become personal trainers, and then they don't last very long, whether because you have to kind of sell yourself, whether because you have to build your own thing, whether it be because it can be grueling to try to coach one-on-one for long periods of the day or XYZ. But what's kept you in it? That's another good way. So kind of touch on those two things, just the power of good training and what's kept you in it.
Yeah, I mean, I talk about this pretty frequently with people. I honestly believe the number one reason that I've been doing this for how old am I now? 20, 21 years now is, well, one, I love this stuff, I really enjoy it. And I've had my stages, and we'll probably talk about this. I've had my stages of drinking this Kool-Aid and that Kool-Aid and this, but I've always been open-minded to learning more and wanting to learn more, because that's what keeps it fun for me. And I think that's, another reason is I really want to learn. I don't know everything. I know a lot, and I can help a lot of people with what I do know, but man, it's just fun that there's so much to continually learn. And the longer that I'm in it, the more I realize that I need to learn more about, and I keep digging, and I always try it on myself. So it's you gotta talk the talk and walk the walk. So I've never, even during this crazy transition with this gym, it was 6 months of definitely the hardest 6 months probably of my life, just between having to sacrifice sleep and family time and music and all the stuff that brings you joy outside of training and even training. I had to sacrifice that a little bit too, but I really enjoy this stuff, and I'm constantly trying to try things out and see what actually seems to work in practice, not just on paper. And other than that, every day I don't think about this as a job.
Yeah.
This, for better or worse, I'm going to say it. I know people who are making a lot more money than me in this, in this field. And sure, I would love to be a little bit more comfortable than we are now, and that's the plan. But Honestly, I don't even think about it because I have faith that honestly that God put me here to help people, and with this stuff, it's a service thing. If I am going to, if I do go out and I do my very best for somebody, I don't have to know everything, you know. But if I do my very best and I give it my all every single day, whether it's on this computer coaching feedback video that way, or somebody doing the nutrition check-in and they're having a heart-to-heart because that led to somewhere else that was a lot more deeper than just tell me how their macros went this week.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like, man, it's like, you know, strength and kindness. It's like you say. So, you know, if that's really where it's at. Relationships, building those relationships, and it all comes around for the better because, you know, through all this, I've coached people for that long. There's people that I coach now that are family, you know, because I've coached them for 20 years. I've unfortunately had to be great friends and with people that I've had to see pass away through this journey too. And we honor them in so many ways still to this day. But, you know, everybody, and what's cool is like, these people are all connected to other good people. And sure, that helps from a business perspective, but that's how this community's grown. It's not just me or another coach that we have. It's just kind of this snowball effect. You know, good people bring other good people in, and they end up changing or even saving the life of somebody else, you know, and it's amazing how it snowballs.
Yeah. No, I mean, you touched on a number of like just really powerful pieces there. I mean, it like if you're in it to make money purely, like, and don't get me wrong, I think you can do well. You can do well, like
For sure.
in training and coaching and building businesses like that are health oriented. You know, like I went to physical therapy school because like I felt like I needed some other avenue besides just like being a coach. And I kind of look back and it's like I think there's been a lot of advantages to it. I think to some extent it makes me more marketable for like when people like, cause like it's funny though because the main reason to like train, well, there's a lot of reasons to train, but like people realized like 150 years ago that like physical training like helped them feel better and like more capable and strong, and it helped them not have kind of as the moans and groans, right? And then, you know, there's been a lot of iterations of this type of stuff, and humans are complicated. You know this, like pain is complicated. You know, like when I'm lower emotionally, I'm in more pain. You know, when I'm more pressures put on me as a person, I have my moans and groans are more irritable, right? And all this stuff. And just, but like, the main reason people started doing this stuff is because it made them feel better, right? And then we've kind of turned it into like, you know, you're gonna train without pain somehow, or you're gonna be able to do X, Y, Z without any hardship or anything like that. So I do get people who kind of are looking for some secret. And I'm like, and that's kind of maybe what I've accepted. Like, there's no freaking secret. Like, there is like avenues, you know, working with you and what I was wanting to do with you and what like I did. Like, I read Starting Strength. I'm like, I found you who was a starting strength coach, and I'm like, hey man, help me squat 405 in the next 16 weeks. That did not happen, but I did. But I did like make really good progress on some things, and like you know, part of the thing, if I really wanted it, was to just be more patient about the progress and keep doing the thing I was doing while managing it better. But like, humans are hard. We don't always like, that's like, especially the way fitness is. It's like, oh well, there's some better strategy out there, and there might be different strategies, but those strategies often look pretty similar, right? Like, hey, define your goal. Let's get clear on the objectives. Let's get clear on the weekly process, and let's execute it, right? But like, you know, we even like you're an optimizer. I'm an optimizer. I'd say you're probably a little bit more detailed, specific than me. But like the optimizers are always trying to figure out something when it's like like let it cook, let it buff out, which is hard for us, right?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, exactly. You hit a lot right there. I mean, you have to. So you only have your knowledge plus whatever mentors you have and all that coming together. You only have so much to work from, no matter how smart that you are at this stuff. And you have to be willing to take a little bit of a risk and just see how things play out. You know, it's art. The way I see it is programming, exercise programming is and coaching is an art. You know, it's not as cut. I wish it was as super cut and dry. You know, we can use AI to create a decent program, but you know, AI doesn't necessarily know how this person feels, how their mindset is, what their history is like, and you know, so that's where the human nature of it comes into play too. It's not just, you know, dotting the I's and crossing the T's. You know, you really have to use your knowledge and whatever knowledge you can, you know, harness to come up with a good starting point. But you have to be willing to just give it some time and see how it works, and know how to change, you know, and adapt, evolve. You know, programming should evolve, you know, as we go along. And when we do that, we don't have to say, hey, I'm just going to run this certain formula or recipe for 12 weeks and then all of a sudden change it. If you know, we're kind of I'm getting down into like a programming hole now, but you know, if it's constantly being monitored and evolving at the appropriate pace, you know, you're not jumping the gun too soon and worrying too soon. You know, there's a lifetime of progress there, but it's very complex. It's not just cut and dry.
Well, I saw something the other day, and it's like strength athletes or power lifters are like some of the softest athletes there are, because like they, you know, stuff stops working for like a week, or they don't perform well for a few days, and they're like trying to cook everything up in a different thing, because like, you know, every other sport, it is kind of viewed like it's practice, right? But like we get into a performance mode with a lot of things, and that gets a little tricky on our mind, right?
Yeah, I mean, how many baseball players that are in the Hall of Fame that didn't have, you know, poor hitting streaks, you know, like,
Yeah.
you know, that just, but, you know, it stinks. There's plateaus in every sport, though. I mean, nobody's expected to be, you know, at the top of their game all the time. And like you said, in the gym, that is your practice. You know, you have a plan, and you have a forecast, but it's just a forecast. You know, that's where RPE and all of these auto regulation tools became so popular, because we were trying too hard to be the best weatherman on earth, you know, and even the best weatherman on earth is horrible in a way.
Yeah, still,
you know, like you gotta have the flexibility built in to course correct, and can't expect to be at your best all the time or perform at your best.
What did like you played hockey, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did you play baseball too?
When I was really young, before high school, I was playing baseball. My brother played baseball. My brother's 2 years younger. He was the great baseball player. He played Division I at SLU and eventually some pro baseball in France. But at some point, my dad, he kind of did what we know these days that you kind of shouldn't do, is specialize too early. But it was logistics, and money.
Yeah.
He was like, guys, you got to pick one. We can't be driving you both around to even two sports with our schedule and money. And it was easy for me. I was like, ice versus 100-degree heat with humidity in Missouri. I was like, no question, I'm playing hockey, Dad. My brother chose baseball, so I ended up going all in on that, just like I do with anything. I was all in. I thought I'd be playing pro, and maybe could have, but I got burnt out. So there you go. That goes back to the statistics on hyper specializing early on in sport too. I got burnt out and didn't even play college, even though that was part of the plan too. So, but hockey's still a great sport.
It's I mean, this is just another piece of it. It's just like it's all hard. Like, yeah, ideally we could have kids play 2 to 3 sports, and you can finagle. But dude, so Cody has 3 boys. How old's your oldest?
So the oldest is 4, and we got a 2-year-old and then an 8 month as
Yeah, so
well.
he's got 3 under 4 or 3 F4.
Hmm.
But like this is what I've realized was just like bringing one on board and being self-employed. Like, okay, like being self-employed is like you trying to figure out like how to organize like systems in a business and your schedule. It's like I always look back at I'm like, you know what, college was like a special experience. I was just told where to be, what to do, clear cut, and then I had a shit ton of free time.
Hmm.
There's a reason I'm paying a lot of money to be there, right? But like business is like kind of you got to do all that stuff for yourself, and you got to make sure you got enough make enough money to pay your mortgage and pay for your food and XYZ, right? And then you throw kids on top of it, and you just it's a never ending change dynamic. It's like life is great, but it's like a lot of our problems just in pressures stem from like how do we navigate you know and even people who have a lot of money, they still struggle with it, right? But like, how do we navigate the schedule? How do we navigate like fulfillment with these kids, right? But like,
Hmm.
yeah, man, I think it's parenting has already taught me, and I've already learned it, and I've already gone through a wave of like, shit, I need to try to find some amount of like training is a great outlet for me, but it's also not like play. Like it is kind of play, but it's like I gotta go play something, or I gotta like let out some different energy or whatever, right? And it's tricky, but I think where I was going with this is just like being a business owner, being a dad, managing the pressures of those things. Like, I use training for an analogy for everything. It's like, how do I stay in the game? How do I be adaptable? But what have you learned over the past 4 years? And even honestly, I know during that COVID, like, COVID was a time where Cody, you let your members have gym equipment, like take out gym equipment, like let's keep this going, like being adaptable. But what did that teach you? What has being a dad taught you over the past 4 years? Just like talk me through some big life lessons there.
Okay. Oh, this could go on forever, or it could be very short. I don't know. Um, but the short end would be I'm still trying to work on this even to this day. But being adaptable is probably the best thing, and one of the best traits you could ever have is because, and that's coming from somebody is like you said, I'm very detail oriented almost to a fault, and I have to pull back on that sometimes. But I man, if you were in my brain, you would know every day. Like it's such a laundry list of stuff that I want to fit in. I'm notorious for not particularly being on time because I'm the guy that goes, well, I got 5 minutes. I could fit in this today's social media post for the gym, like instead of slowing down and taking time. That's something that I'm working on, and I'm trying to pile 5 pounds of shit in a 2 pound bag, but no, COVID, yeah, COVID was a wild time because we were at our original location, and what we do is we do basically what I like to call private coaching in a group setting. So it's small group. We're able to coach every single work set, and we are so in tune with each of our members, as far as coaching them and in the gym and out, because we also use an app called, these days, we're using an app called Turnkey Coach, which is a great app. We used to use True Coach, and it was fine too, but Turnkey Coach is just on another level.
Mm-hmm.
But we are highly connected with people because their programming is provided through there. It's all individualized for each person, even though they train and come and train together in a group setting. And half of my day is on the computer, because when your workout's complete, just like you do, I mean, your workout, somebody completes a workout, you're in there, I mean, even if it's just hey, you did really good, I know you didn't hit the numbers you wanted, but you showed up when you didn't have to because of what happened at work that day. That's big stuff that, just it's encouraging accountability. But we get deep into nutrition and get some big conversations going on there too. So we kind of have these dual layers of accountability built in with our gym instead of just being in person or just online. But because of that, when COVID hit, I was like, shoot, I don't want, and literally it wasn't, again, I don't make my decisions very well based on being a businessman. I don't call myself a businessman. I'm still learning that more than anything. But I was like, how are these people going to continue working out during this? I didn't know how long it was going to last. I was just told that by the city that we need to shut down. And, I'm the guy that likes to, I shouldn't say I'm going to follow rules verbatim and without any thought, but hey, I'm gonna do my best to do what is right at the end of the day. And so I was like, all right, hey, what do we got? We got 30 something barbells, we got some dumbbells, we got tons of plates, we got 8 Rogue R3 squat racks. And I said, all right, listen, we can online coach all of you just fine. And if everybody has at least a barbell with a few weights, or if they don't want that, that's fine too. We can do, as we know now, we can do plenty of great training without anything, just body weight. And so everybody ended up coming up one day, and we loaded up their cars and their trucks, and with everything from squat racks to barbells to plates to dumbbells to kettlebells, and we revitalized everybody's programming to fit what they had available, and everybody stayed on track. And we didn't lose a single member during the COVID scare. In fact, we grew. We actually grew during that time somehow. And that wasn't really the goal, but I mean, again, focusing on serving the people that you care about that are, are part of your family at the gym is kind of number one. And then from that, they stayed on track, got some results, tried some things that they never maybe would have tried before just because they had to be flexible with what was available. And they came back and things just continued to evolve from there, and at the Strength Parlor, we have always valued barbell training. That's still a number one value, but we've evolved a lot over the years, and you know that, Dave, because you've done that too, and I've learned a lot from Dave and spit ideas and bounce balls off of Dave over the years, and shoot, nowadays nothing's off limits. I mean, we're jumping, we're running, we're lifting, we're doing unilateral work, we're doing the silly stuff that you couldn't create an educational opinion that would beat the next science-backed guru at a battle of if should you be doing this. But there's that's a whole nother story. But it's like, hey, if somebody finds value in it and they're consistent, I'll take that any day. If it's over something that looks great on paper and science, but they don't like, But I mean, I think being flexible is the key, and is going further. Lennox, was my first son. He's 4 now, and what did being a dad teach me? I think I always knew that family came first, and that was always a value in my family, and that didn't really change. But you see that sort of sentiment more clearly when you're a parent, and it's just it's, if anything, it's also taught me just like, hey, like what seems like big stuff, like there's times when you feel like your business is just not thriving and you're failing, and what am I going to do and this and that. But at the end of the day, like between my love for my family and my faith in a higher power, and I just know things are truly not as bad as they ever seem, and push come to shove, everything's gonna be okay, because I'm gonna do everything I can to take care of these little guys, and it just puts things in perspective that, hey, what seems like big fish is actually smaller fish at the end of the day, even though it's still important. Um, but shoot, there's so many lessons that I've learned being a parent
Well,
and
even just like looking back on one of the things I do, and I probably need to repeat this mantra like more. It's like good things grow, right? And like we know of things that weren't good that grew a lot, and
Mhm.
like they kind of capitalize on human behavior or XYZ. Even in my community, we'll go down and we'll get like a coffee, and like there's a few of these places that like are kind of capitalizing on people's ignorance about like health and aesthetics and stuff like that, right? And I'm like, you know what? Like I have no control over any of that stuff, but I know if I know that I can help a person feel supported, build confidence in themselves, enjoy physical training, and also enjoy physical training, but also realize like it doesn't necessarily have to be an ass kicking like type of thing, because that's kind of like, people go through those phases, and but like good things grow, like, and if I keep pumping things, if I keep pumping out good, like it's gonna grow in the appropriate ways, right? That I want it to do. But even just like you think about like lending your equipment to people during COVID, like even if COVID was a strange time mentally, depending on how like what you were able to do. Some people thrived during COVID, like there are people who are like, yeah, whatever, like me personally, like we lost a job. Me and my wife both lost jobs that we really enjoyed. We really lost a lifestyle that we were really enjoying, and then I went and I found another job that like kind of sucked, and it just was hard, and it was just that dramatic change between this state that I think, and in combination with like we don't really know where this is going, we don't know how long it could last, and we were far away from family when this all kind of happened, right? But like just keeping people training like during that time, massive for their mind, their body, and just humans need stuff to do. We need work that we enjoy. We need challenges to overcome, right? Like and you kind of hit the nail on the head earlier too, just with like like at this current stage, like you can go ask ChatGPT or Claude to pump you out a training template, right? And it's probably gonna be good, and that's fine. But like humans are weird. Like we can have the good plan right in front of us, but without like the touch points, the feedback, the like what I just see so much from people is like how do I keep the thread of my goal? Like here's my goal. I want to keep that in mind, but I also need to respect that like I want to do XYZ. I want this side quest as well, right? Or hey, this is the season of work that I'm in. How do I make it doable and not beat myself up, right? And that's the utility of coaching and programming and being like service oriented, like you mentioned, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and just like relating, as human beings, it's kind of funny. I've goofed around quite a bit with something like ChatGPT, and I'm a coffee guy too, so I geek out on, you know, pour over coffee and all that. And it's been really a useful tool for that. I've kept good notes with it, and it's kind of the way I like to use it is as almost like like an assistant in a way, and honestly, it helps free up. I think it helps me with decision fatigue. Sometimes that the right thing to do or the right decision, but having it's for better or worse having somebody, whether it's an AI or a person, is a good thing. But one time, where I'm getting with this is one time recently, it's like, yeah, I've in my experience when I've been brewing coffee this way and that way, and I'm just thinking, I was like, what do you mean your experience? Your AI, like, it's like it's so interesting to me, but it's like in real life, that's human to human. I've walked the walk. I've done this stuff. I know how hard it is to stay on top of your diet and do this. I know how hard it is to train at 8 or 9 p.m. When the kids go to bed, or to wake up early and do it, so that's just the relatability, I think, is why a good coach is not going to go anywhere no matter what. It's just that's irreplaceable.
Yeah. No, I mean, humans. I was actually just talking to another guy, like kind of business oriented conversation, and he's like, like it's just changing, and the rate of change is really rapid. But it's like if you want to make things work, he's like, expertise, quote unquote, is like diminishing, but because the knowledge is like a search away, but it is like the experiential knowledge, the like making connect, like data is like, I don't know if you've ever seen this graphic, but like data is like a bunch of points, right? And then like knowledge is like kind of making connections, right? Well, like wisdom is like making those connections, but also having stories to be able to relate to them, right? Relatability. I mean, this is like literally, this is why like Jesus and Buddha and like these spiritual teachers told stories so that we could, relate, right? And like, there's like a wisdom economy coming, and like if you're in a local community and you want to build a business, it's like, well, then you just have to be a part of that community and be it's the same way that the people would go to the shaman, right? Like it's the same way they'd go to the medicine man. But then like it's being out there, and then I honestly think it's just like maintaining your humanity, right? Like not turning people into numbers type of thing, especially in like our field, right? Like people are expecting like some form of connection, and I think people are expecting to be seen, heard, and understood, but then also like they like connection and like evolution of the relationship. Like the people I've coached for 4 or 5 years now, like I have a really good sense of like how they're doing and how work is, what maybe we need to fine tune, right? The people who just onboard, I mean, I tell people when they sign up, it's like, hey, this is a relationship. It's going to take some time to like me get to know you. And some people are just on board to just rehab for periods of time, and that's fine. Learn and get insight. Some people, it's like you kind of know that they're going to want to stick around for a long time, and that's really cool, like as a business owner, right? Or they want to stick around as long as you're doing a good job serving them, or connections there. So what has like what are you doing for training right now? Like how has it evolved? Because we kind of touched on this. I think we both like are big proponents and believers of barbell training, but we also we see dogma, right? We see that type of stuff. I think wisdom, and also just like the internet or training, it's almost become more fractionated than I think it probably even was like 7 or 8 years ago, right? Like there's even more like styles of training or XYZ.
Right.
But like what are you training for now, and what does it look like?
Okay. Yeah. I mean, yeah, like nowadays, the way that I train, I think the hot term is something like hybrid training,
Yeah.
which cracks me up because it's like, to me, it's just, you're an athlete, you're just training like you would if you were an athlete, like, if you have to lift weights and you're running and you're jumping and you're hitting some unilateral work and you're doing some flexibility training, if you're touching all the bases that you can, or at least that you value, to me, it's just you're training athletically. I mean, it's just, and that's basically how I train these days, for people listening who even care. I mean, when I was a hockey player, I trained for hockey. Once I got burnt out on hockey, Dad was like, all right, you got to go to school for something. I was like, well, I like training for hockey as much as I like playing hockey, so I guess I'll go learn exercise science. and that's kind of what led there. But during those early years of studying for exercise science, I got into CrossFit because it had those elements. It was especially early CrossFit was trying to touch all the bases and train people appropriately. I think a lot of the early CrossFit was actually quite good. It just obviously
It became like a massive
yeah,
classic
yeah,
just conglomeration of trying to do everything all the time as opposed to which is what CrossFit was. But I remember, and I don't remember if you know that remember this too, but there'd be a days it's one of the days was go work on your handstand for 45 minutes, right? Or then the next day would be 5x5 deadlift, and then the next day would be a Metcon. That was what
Dude,
I first was initiating. I'm this is cool.
Yeah. How fun
and then it
was
became
that? You know,
every day just grind yourself into a pit of
yeah,
Metcon strength.
yeah. I mean, the original Glassman writing, and I don't remember it too well to this day, but it was pretty, good. It was all right, let's strength train. Let's do some gymnastics because there's a lot of value in moving your own body well. Let's have some aerobic and anaerobic capacity with running and rowing and jumping rope. Let's have some power output with some Olympic weightlifting and some jumping. It made sense. And I think I would have loved to. I don't know how much you got paid to do CrossFit main site programming, but I would have loved to do that. It'd been so easy. It just seems so random. It's like you said, let's do 45 minutes of handstand practice today, and then would you see that once a year? So it's how am I going to get good at the handstands if I'm doing this once a year?
Well, and that was always the common thread. It's okay, well, how we got to touch on this stuff.
Yeah. And it's hard, and I think that's kind of came full circle with me. Is after CrossFitting, I got into just straight strength training, and because I would cherry pick, and I loved the strength training the most with CrossFit. And after doing that, and I got into I was a CrossFit coach. I programmed for a CrossFit gym for a long time, and then got into starting strength, became one of the few starting strength coaches at the time, and drank that Kool-Aid. And there's, again, great stuff from starting strength. The best book you could ever own about, if you want to geek out about technique with barbell training, is Starting Strength. But I got too deep into that. I was powerlifting. I decided to build my body up into 270 pounds to hit my all-time best squat and deadlift and press and bench and all that. And then I realized, I'm kind of fat. And, I don't like my waist being above 40 inches, especially now that I know that it really needs to be under 37 to optimize my longevity. So I started chasing, a leaner body composition, and I'm not nearly as strong as I once was. And part of that is I had an injury that I talked to you about a few years ago. But since then, things have gotten a lot better, and they're not perfect, but things are better, and I've kind of came full circle. It's it's not CrossFit, but it's those same foundational principles of, hey, I don't want to lack in any category. The difference now is it's very intelligent with where can I touch just a little bit to maintain, because I already have enough of that, and then where am I very weak and I should put more of a focus in. The programming's very more well thought out, but I got some stuff I'm maintaining, some stuff that I'm progressing, some stuff that I won't touch for a few months, and I'll come back to it because it was lower priority. But that's periodization, right? I mean, we have to periodize our training to some degree, or else we're gonna have, unless you're just hitting 2 or 3 a days, I guess. But even then, if you got the job and nutrition ability and family lifestyle to recover from that, great. But you got to find your way to. You only have so many pennies to spend.
I've kind of I'm gonna keep doing Olympic weightlifting meets. I've kind of just decided. I work with a coach right now. His name's Chris Speed.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly started working with him just because I had him on my podcast. He was just a cool guy, and I think he's been fun to work with. He does things very differently than I would do them, and I think that's some of the utility of and it can work, right? And by no means have I really become a great Olympic lifter. Honestly, the last like 3 months, I've kind of just been going through my own waves of some shit. Like, my hips have been bothering me. Some of this is like honestly just internal though, like pressure. Like, also, dude, injuries and stuff. Like, I've have a few people like. Social media also screws up our mind when it comes to like how to manage some of this stuff, because like a lot of it has just been, hey, back squatting is not feeling good on your hips, like, but you can still front squat, you can still deadlift. Just do what feels good for a little while, dude. Like, but like my brain is like, well, like, you know, even though I know you don't fix any of this stuff, I still like, I gotta figure it out, and like that drives me crazy. That's where my brain goes toward. Like, you obsess, and you probably do the same thing too, but you obsess over XYZ. Well, I obsess over like, how do I get out of this thing? And like, there, you don't. You just like let your body take care of itself, and you just do what you can, right? But honestly, like, you hit the nail on the head. Like, Starting Strength is such a fucking good book, but you should not necessarily take it as like gospel when it comes to like the way that your body is going to adapt to programming, right? Like, because that's what I did. I'm like, oh yeah, all right. Yeah. 405 is only 16 to 20 weeks away, especially if you eat and you drink like you care, right? I'm like, you know, like I squatted like a PR set of 5. I don't know if you remember this. I squatted like a PR set of 5 on my wedding day. Mm-hmm. And I went and like got pictures taken, and then I still look at those pictures sometimes. I'm like, damn, dude, I just wish I would have not gained 45 pounds like
just
in the 4 months prior to my wedding, right? So, but I really look at, like, honestly, Jim Wendler's like the training system of like 531-esque, where it's like 3 days a week you're doing something like, you know, moderately challenging, some type of AMRAP. Vary up your exercises every 6 to 8 to 12 weeks, depending on what you want. And like the thing that I shied away from for a long time, because I just like I was a runner, is I stopped running. But I fucking love to run. Like I enjoy going out and just going for a 20 to 30 minute run. It helps me, honestly, I think, emotionally. Probably just fight or flight type of shit, right? But like, and I've just done that more the last year, and I've just been more generally satisfied with stuff. Even though it's like, yeah, maybe I'm not deadlifting as much as I ever have, but also I kind of, you know, and you get this too, it's like, I kind of believe I can get back there, like, or I can get to a good place per se, but I have to just accept that I don't need to do it as fast as I always want to do it, right? And that's like a hard game, right?
Yeah, and, you know, like, also, for me, it's like, why? Like, do I really need to deadlift 530 pounds? You know, like, for some people, they can have a really strong reason to do that still. And some of that has to do with how hard is it and how much sacrifice it takes to get to a 530 deadlift, you know? But for me, it just became like, man, like, how much, what I realized is how much of my previous history was very ego driven, and I didn't realize it at the time.
Yeah.
And insecurity driven. Like, why did I need to be 270 and squat 530? Why did, you know, like, what was the point really? I wasn't even competitive. Like, that's a decent number, but, you know, I wasn't competitive, you know, like, there was literally I was feeling something that was much deeper than that, you know, that it really was short-lived, and it had a lot of cost, a lot of injury costs for me at least, and a lot of I had to sacrifice my health in other ways and time and things like that. And so nowadays I'm like, I don't know that I'll ever have the motivation to hit a PR on squat, even if I can at this body weight, you know, like, I'm not sure that that's even in the cards, you know, but I just don't have that. I think there's different seasons for everything, you know, and I think that's a big piece of it. And it's been actually really refreshing for me to just let go of that side of, you know, like, hey, like, it's okay to be weaker than I've ever been. And, you know, because I'm also able to find value in other aspects of my training now. Like you said, like, dude, I couldn't, I mean, I guess I could have ran at 270 or what, but I don't know. I know I couldn't do it for an hour. And you know, nowadays, man, like, at any point in time, if I wanted to, I could get up and just go. I'm not saying I'm the fastest, but I could run for hours. I know I
Yeah.
could,
Yeah.
if I had to, and I could, and like you said, if it's 20 minutes or if it's an hour, I really do enjoy it. It doesn't mean that I'm excited to start, but once I get going, I'm zoning out in a way that I can't with training. Like, even though my training's not super stressful right now with PRs and this and that, I like you, it's something that I have to do more than I get to do in my mindset. Even though I want to change that, I still have to do it. And I do enjoy it most of the time, but it's still something that I have to do. With running, I could just get up, no matter how tired I am. I could take these headphones off, put my shoes out, and just go. I don't have to do a big warm up. There's no psychological cost for me. I could what are they calling it, raw dogging it now? I could go out there with no headphones, nothing, and just make it this meditative experience. Or I could listen to a podcast or the next Jack White album or whatever, but there is something, and that's what's cool too, is like, I don't run every day. Just like I don't lift every day. There's a little bit more variety and I think there's a more even keelness to it that way. And I think that's been really good for me, even just not from a physical level, but from a psychological level and an emotional level, like you said.
Yeah, dude. I mean, the ego piece and the insecurity piece, I think a lot of people who love this shit have to have that conversation with themselves at some point. I mean, Lauren, who is one of my, when I first started my business, and she was one of the first people, like, I helped her with her ACL when I was in St. Louis. She lives not too far. She lives in, like, Florissant, I think, and I knew her. She was going to the CrossFit gym I was working at when I was in that area as well. And but she really doesn't she doesn't care about what anybody else is doing. And really her main goal is, like, I want to keep getting stronger, and I just want to see what I'm capable of. And then she pretty much just shows up, like, and does, like, I'm not doing rocket science with her programming. It's just undulation and, managing volume or changing little tweaks or doing X, Y, Z. And even with her, I mean, like, even some of the things people would be like, you don't really want to change her squat, or you don't want to change how she deadlifts? And I'm like, no. She's put on 120 pounds on her squat in the past, like, since I started working with her, or more than that, honestly. She's deadlifted 120 pounds more. Her total has increased, it's like there's principles to this stuff, but, like, I'm not trying to fix her. I'm just trying to make sure she maintains and like, she's feeling good as best possible.
Yeah. I mean, that kind of goes back to the dogmatism with technique too. It's like, sure, like, we got these principles. Maybe a lifter should be in balance whenever they're lifting. Maybe ideally the bar path is midfoot. But how many of the best lifters have broken these rules a little bit? Like, it happens all the time. I remember, a time. This probably still happens to this day, but there was a guy that I knew who was a starting strength coach, but he also was very a good Olympic weightlifting coach, and he coached some nationally competitive lifters, maybe even world competitive lifters. And I guess he had posted a video of one of them, and you had the starting strength crew attacking him because, hey, why are they not starting with their hips higher? Why isn't the bar midfoot? The bar's ahead of midfoot. If they would just start with their hips a little bit higher, they'd be wasting less energy, and there'd be a straight vertical bar path and this and that. And it's just like, come on, like, have you ever thought that, like, there's multiple ways to do things, and sometimes somebody's really good at doing it wrong? And like Usain Bolt, the dude's legs longer on one side. It's like, what is he going to be a better runner once you put a shim in his shoe? No, he's probably going to be worse. Like, and it's like, why do people care so much too?
Well, I've come to this realization too. It's like the intellect. Okay, so I mean, we can reference this to, like, you can't get to God through the intellect, right? You can't get to faith through the intellect. You can't get to experience through the intellect, but people want to. They want to, they want the intellect because it's a point of our ego, right? And a lot of this though is just it's experiential, right? So, hey, I gotta bounce.
Right.
Cody, where do people find you if you want to be found? Give us your pitch here, buddy, and then we'll.
Okay. Yeah. So the gym's website, www.thestrengthparlor.com. We're The Strength Parlor on all of the social media stuff too. Maybe it's just Strength Parlor, but Instagram, I'm Cody_Strength Parlor. That's about it. I mean, you can find my email address off the website too, but feel free if there's any way I can help.
His gym is beautiful. You're still in O'Fallon though, right?
Yes, yeah. We're in O'Fallon, Missouri. Yep.
O'Fallon, Missouri. It's beautiful. It looks clean and crisp. I'm excited to get there eventually one of these days. But
definitely.
I'll link all that stuff on socials here, and we'll get this up soon. But I appreciate your time, buddy.
Sounds good, man. It was great talking to you.
Good to talk to you.
Okay.
Peace, everybody.
See you, man.